Now we know why they really, really, really did not want Donald Trump to win. But he won, and there he is. And now the grand jury has been convened. The Clintons are getting subpoenaed, both of them actually, one by Comer, one by Pam Bondi, and now we got a full-blown DOJ investigation. This is big stuff. Comer, of course, coming out within the last 24 hours mentioning that he is subpoenaing a whole list of characters, right? You got Hillary Clinton in there, you got former President Bill Clinton, you've got Merrick Garland, you've got James Comey, you've got William Barr, you've got Alberto Gonzales, you've got Jeff Sessions, Robert Mueller, who, according to a report out of Paul Sperry at Real Clear Politics, gosh, poor Mueller apparently is in some kind of dementia care, memory care situation, and has been for a bit. You got Loretta Lynch, you've got Eric Holder. I mean, this is going to be good. And by the way, just take a look at those dates, everyone. I mean, this is going to be what we call a jam-packed summer. No vacation for anyone. Plus, fall. Thank you so much to everybody who's tuning in right now. Thank you for your generosity and for all your comments and your subscriptions. Good to have everybody here. We weren't on just yesterday, you'll recall. Peace of my mind was looking for me, and I'm back. I'm here. Little travel snafu, but back in the seat again. I just want to share with you something that Tulsi Gabbard said to my former colleague Laura. I believe she was on with Laura, yes, over at Fox just last night. So Tulsi is pretty upset because if you consider the way the media has treated this entire story, they've treated it as though it's fiction. They've chosen not to cover it. And then when they did start covering it, they covered it really aggressively as though it was a whole bunch of lies. I mean, we've been there, done that, seen that before, have we not? And now I think there is accountability coming into play. And she's clearly, if you listen to Tulsi, frustrated with the media. I want to play this soundbite for you. Let's listen in.
They're using the same old tactic that the deep state's propaganda arm in the media uses. Whenever they come across something that is true and that doesn't go along with whatever their narrative is that they're trying to shove down the throats of the American people, they first usually ignore it, as they did when I first released these documents a couple of weeks ago. They tried to ignore it. When they realized that they weren't going to get away with this, that this story was going to continue breathing life, we continued releasing new documents, then they decided, oh, we'll take this approach of say, oh, this is nothing. There's nothing really to see here. This is bizarre. This is a conspiracy. These are the things that they do over and over and over again. And the next step they will take when they feel that they are not succeeding in getting rid of this truth that we have uncovered for the American people, then they will go down the route of we must destroy and smear and attack the credibility of those who are delivering the truth to the American people. They've done this to President Trump. They've done this to me. They've done this to so many different people, once again, who are trying to tell the American people the truth and expose these people, many of whom you just showed, for who they are as the propaganda arm of the deep state, which would have no power and no influence if they weren't able to feed their lies into a willing spokesperson through the propaganda media.
Wow. Okay, right? That makes sense. You've got a media system that's kind of rigged and set up to help one side, and they've always been on that side. And then all of a sudden the outsider comes along. And by the way, think about it like this. It's not just that they're there to help the left, which they are, because most of them are a bunch of lefties that are in the media. It's also that they're there to help whoever is in establishment. So you get somebody like an outsider, Donald Trump, coming along, and people don't know what to make of that, right? Even go all the way back. They weren't very nice to Reagan, right, or Bush, because they were on the wrong side as far as many in the media were concerned. But they weren't as hostile, and I think part of that is because they still saw Reagan, they saw Bush as in the inner circle. But this businessman who comes along, I mean, much like Ross Perot, they really didn't like Ross Perot very much either, and says, hey, we're going to shake things up. We're going to do things in a more efficient way. He's the outsider. He's from completely outside their set of circle. I mean, it's not just the fact that he's on the other team, But the fact that he's not part of their system as they know it, that's part of what has created this meltdown. And it's been a meltdown that's been ongoing. And I'm sort of like, I've been on the sidelines, or in it, obviously. We're on the front lines. I shouldn't say some sidelines. We're on the front lines of history here. But from day one, when he first went down the escalator, I was like, okay, this is interesting. Now let me see his tax plan. And I read the tax plan. Every little last bit of it, because I'm wonky enough to do that kind of stuff, guys. I do this so you don't have to. Anyway, I was like, wow, this is a good tax plan. I like this tax plan. Tell me more. And so I think he's had the right economic plan. And you just look at the markets today, even in light of the tariffs that he may be putting on India, they're 50%. Markets are still higher. And so why is it that people are still so resistant and they hate him so much? I mean, that in and of itself is getting really weird. And you look at, for example, NBC's MSNBC. What am I saying? NBC can't wait to get rid of her. They're like, please take her. Get her out of town. Rachel Maddow had like a complete meltdown, a total meltdown on MSNBC last night. She's flipping out. Well, I guess it was Monday night, flipping out because there will be accountability. And for her, that's nothing short of a dictatorship. Right, because she's the one who spun all those lies over and over and over again, took you down that crazy rabbit hole. Let's take a look at one Rachel Maddow.
And, listen, you can narrow or widen the aperture as much as you want. You can look at the very big picture or the small local picture anywhere in the country. And we try to do as much of both of those things as we can every week here on this show. But whether you're looking at small-scale local stories or the biggest picture stories about what's happening in our country, the story is the same, and it is now an undeniable thing. We have crossed a line. We are in a place we did not want to be, but we are there. The thing we were all warning about for the last few years is not coming, it is here. We are in it. This is what it likes, it turns out. This is what it's like, right? It's August, it's a Monday, every day the sun rises and the sun sets, and there are, sports and movies, and there are new hit songs, there are scandals here and there are crimes. There's everybody's personal quotient of family drama and health worries and money worries and falling in and out of love and in and out of faith. Life has not stopped, and none of our personal lives have stopped. But also at the same time, life in the United States.
She goes on to tell you, this is a full-blown dictatorship. And it's a dictatorship because you see the guy that she doesn't like is actually doing what he needs to do to make sure that doesn't happen to anybody again. I mean, shouldn't an outsider be able to, you have to be an insider, shouldn't an outsider be able to run for president of the United States and win? And why should they be met with hostility at every single turn? And you guys know it. It was really bad. So now he's like, okay, I get you right where I want. By the way, just my point on poor Rachel Maddow. I'm not kidding. Like, NBC really can't wait to get rid of her. They had their earnings call last week. And the key quote from that one was, after the Versant, it's actually Versant, spin, it will then have a media business, this is the CEO, made up of NBC, Broadcast, Bravo, Telemundo, as well as Peacock, that are completely symbiotic, leveraging the strengths of entertainment, the entertainment business, both in scripted and reality entertainment, as well as sports and news. In other words, they are so psyched to have this new media company that is divorced from one Rachel Maddow and company over at MSNBC, because she's clearly just shown herself to be a tremendous liability, plus she costs $25 million reportedly a year. So somehow she's managed to squeeze that out of them, but they're not squeezing any ratings out of her, even that lone show one Monday night. Anyway, none of this should come as a surprise to one Rachel Maddow or anyone else, frankly, because first time around, he was Mr. Nice Guy. And then he had 4 years to sit on the sidelines and basically, ran the risk of being thrown in jail for the rest of his life or bankrupted for the rest of his life. Letitia James, thank you very much. And by the way, what is that case still doing in the Court of Appeals in New York? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But here's Donald Trump making it clear on Newsmax. He was nice to Hillary first time around. He didn't want to have to go where he's going right now. But he doesn't really have a choice given what they've done. Watch.
New emails, Mr. President, suggest essentially that Hillary Clinton personally approved the Russia hoax.
With Obama?
With Barack Obama. And my question is she finally going to pay for what she did, or does she get a pass again?
So, you know, we had her, and I had her right under the sights, and I told the people, look, you can't do this to a president's wife, an ex-president, and she was Secretary of State, right. But you can't do this to the wife of a president. And
do you still feel that way?
Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it in a second. If you remember, I was at a rally, and it was after the election, and they said, lock her up, and I said, no, look, we won, just relax. And I didn't do what other people would have done, what they would have done. And then they went after me, and they meant it. I said, you know, it's amazing. I always felt that you shouldn't be doing this stuff, and I let Hillary off the hook. I totally left her off the hook. And then I let her off the hook for what? And then I come in, and they did the same thing to me. The difference is they actually meant it. And they hurt a lot of people, and it was all a hoax. And now they have it in black and white. No, I think they should pay a price.
How directly?
By the way, it's a very big price. It could be the biggest scandal in the history of our country, but it continues onward. And that continues onward. You know, that scandal has continued from the beginning. They have everything they do is a hoax. They're no good at anything other than some forms of nasty politics.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. So his point is, in order to stop this, you have to make it very, very clear that it can never happen again. So any of the leniency that he gave Hillary Clinton first time around because he didn't want to be like a banana republic, he's now like, well, wait a second, we're a banana republic. For goodness sake, she was the one, don't forget, who was telling Biden to dig in no matter what. I'll never forget that one. She went on her former press person's podcast and was saying ahead of the election in 2020, dig in, like no matter what. If it's close, you hang on for dear life. So she was willing to go there. I mean, we know they were willing to go there. Just consider that montage I played you earlier in the show that began with, you know, Carter and went on to Hillary. I didn't play the whole thing for you because you're probably sick of it by now, but we know, what the heck. You know, a little bit more for you. You know what I'm talking about.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this.
Boom, boom, boom. Again, I'm not going to torture you. You can find that online. There's actually a full 20 minutes of it. I have the 10-minute version downloaded on my computer. But it's really remarkable because they went so far out to convince you of something that wasn't true. And now Trump's coming back and saying, hey, you know what? It was a hoax. We need accountability. You know what else is interesting? If you listen to that soundbite that I played for you on Newsmax, he made the point that they're still out there perpetuating this nonsense. And the fact that they're still doing that, that's actually a really important little nugget for you to think about. Because a lot of people have said, okay, well, wait a second, is the statute of limitations going to come into play here? And Stephen Miller, who is a brilliant guy and very good on constitutional law, et cetera, he's a big part, I think, of why you're seeing so much happen right now. And we are seeing a tremendous amount happen. Anyway, Miller is saying, no. The statute of limitations, it's not over because they've continued to perpetuate this nonsense as much as they can about the Russians. Here he is speaking with Maria Bartiromo. Watch.
Hour and the moment for accountability so that we can reclaim this democracy, Maria.
Well, do you believe we will actually get accountability? We've been demanding accountability now for a decade. Our audience is well aware that this is the biggest political scandal we have ever seen, and an effort to undermine and take down a duly elected president. But now we want to see the tricksters face the consequences. Will they?
I have complete confidence in the Department of Justice to follow these facts, to follow this new, further avalanche of evidence, and to take all the necessary legal steps to ensure that the wrongdoers, the coup plotters, the schemers, and the insurrectionists are held fully accountable under the laws and Constitution of these United States. Yes, Maria, I believe that.
Now, last weekend, John Ratcliffe, CIA director who is a former prosecutor, former DNI, told us that the statute of limitations, the 5-year statute does not apply when it comes to conspiracy. And he says the conspiracy is ongoing because they still won't admit it. The conspiracy is still happening. So what is your take on what Ratcliffe told us last week?
Oh, he's completely right. So several of the statutes I mentioned, we have not even come close to eclipsing the statute of limitations. But more than that, it is an ongoing and continuing conspiracy. It continued through the entirety of President Trump's first term. It continued through the entirety of President Biden's term in office, and it continues to this day. There are still deep state coup plotters who are trying to conceal and hide this information on behalf of the people they are protecting. There are still staffers in Democrat offices who know the full truth, who are concealing that truth. So all of this behavior, all of this conduct collectively means the conspiracy hasn't ended, is ongoing. Comey in particular has throughout the years engaged in conduct and lies, public statements, and testimony in front of Congress. False testimony whose sole purpose was to perpetuate and continue the conspiracy. So I have every hope and expectation that the Department of Justice, under the leadership of our courageous Attorney General, will follow these facts and follow the evidence and deliver justice. Because if we have a country where we can continue to have FBI careerists and CIA careerists, deep staters, who will fabricate and doctor evidence, who will create and produce fake material, fabricated material, phony information to try to go after their political enemies up to and including the president. If we continue to create the impression and the reality that there is not a criminal, a severe criminal penalty for such conduct, it will never stop. It will never desist. It will keep on going forever. And we will continue to have a country that is sabotaged endlessly by the production of fake documents, fake material, fake plots against democratically elected officials. We can't have that. There must be consequences.
Well, I mean, it's just extraordinary to me that the mainstream media has completely...
Yeah, she goes on to say what I was saying earlier. The mainstream media has completely ignored this story. And Trump's out there saying, hey, you can't ignore it. You need to actually pay attention to this. It goes back to, for example, what we saw from Tulsi Gabbard saying, the reason they're ignoring it is because they were part of it effectively. And I think that that's a fair assumption to make. Trump, again, all over social media, demanding accountability. I just think it's got to happen. Again, thanks to Xbox. Again, for your generosity. And we had somebody else who told me they were heading to my hometown this weekend. So that's great to hear. It's a great little town. I'll tell you guys, though, you have so much that went down and so much that I think should have been coming out earlier on, and accountability should have been there. Now, he's not willing to play games anymore. So you have a team of people that are very ready, willing, and able to indict. And that means Hillary Clinton. It means everybody associated with Barack Obama. I mean, he may get off because he's former president and the Supreme Court ruled on that vis-a-vis Trump. But Charlotte, thank you. Let me get to your comment in a minute. But first, here's Radcliffe, the CIA director, saying, yeah, indictments are coming.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. D&I Gabbard has made referrals.
Yeah.
And why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word
treason. Treason is what she went on to say. Charlotte, thank you. Charlotte's noticing the volume is a little low. It's because I'm using the computer today, because I'm traveling, and these are the unfortunate things that happen sometimes when you're traveling. So if you guys can turn the volume up on your computer or on your television, that would be great and much appreciated. Reminder, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. And thank you, Charlotte, for that observation. In the meantime, they also say they have more stuff coming out, right? That's part of what came out recently with the burn bags, that were quoted by Kash Patel, who said he had a whole room in the Hoover building filled with more evidence. And then Radcliffe went on with Trey Gowdy. Fox is getting all the attention, I guess, Fox and Newsmax, right? Because they're the only ones covering it outside of those of us over here in the podcast universe. Anyway, Trey Gowdy interviewing Radcliffe, and Radcliffe said, you know, look, there's a whole lot more. So again, I would just say, Hillary, Obama cronies, watch out, listen.
Is there more to come from either you or FBI Director Patel? Are there more shoes to drop that we should be looking for?
Yeah, there are, Trey. So, you know, people need to understand that, you know, there is no Russia collusion hoax file cabinet at the FBI or at the CIA. We have to look for these documents, sometimes that are well hidden. You have to go trace through emails and look for signs and clues that would point you to. That's how I found John Brennan's notes, and that's how we found additional documents. I've talked with FBI Director Patel. He and I will be declassifying additional documents that show just how sinister the FBI was in, you know, amplifying Hillary Clinton's Steele dossier as real and credible to be included in the intelligence community assessment, but also in how they buried the counterintelligence referral memo that I mentioned before, how they went to great lengths to try and keep that out of the intelligence community assessment. So there will be more to come, and I think that you know, people should expect that the Trump administration will continue to shed transparency and light and truth, again, because, Trey, there is no question, this was the greatest political scandal of our lifetime. No one wants to see this happen again. It derailed our country. It derailed President Trump's presidency, his first 4 years in office. And it really is a stain on our country that should never happen again. And Donald Trump is committed to making sure that it doesn't.
Okay. He's right. It cannot happen again, period. End of story. And, you know, there's going to be consequences for it. But, guys, you know, maybe you should have thought of that. I've said this, and I'll say it again. It's like, you know, when you have a team that loses and a team that wins in any athletic competition. Everybody goes up and shakes hands after, and it's all good, right? We're one country, one nation under God. The United States of America is, and it should be each party helping one another in terms of the transition. Instead, they just resisted, and that's coming back to bite them big time. I want to give a shout out to one of our great sponsors here. I'm able to bring you this show from all over the world for free. Big story coming up I want to tell you about related to those India tariffs today out of Ireland, related to the Irish Sea and the oil tankers that have been traveling through them as shadow tankers. But before I do that, Balance in Nature, one of our great sponsors here. You can get 35% off. Use code word Trish. Give them a ring, 1-800-246-8751. You know it's really important to me what I eat, what my kids eat, what my family eats. And you know what? That doesn't stop when I take my vitamins, because what's in the vitamin counts too. In other words, you don't want any of those fillers, you don't want any of the weird things. And so one of the great things about Balance of Nature is that they have never had any of those weird things in it. It's all good, healthy ingredients. So I encourage you to take a look at these guys, balanceofnature.com. They have thousands of testimonials on their website. They have so many different products. I take the fruits and veggies. That way I make sure I get my fruits and veggies some way or another, right? But you can get 35% off with my code Trish. You're helping the show. You're helping yourself. 1-800-246-8751 today.